For joining us. A mass shooting at Florida State University Thursday afternoon has left 2 people dead and 6 more injured, according to police. The gunman, who is believed to be a 20-year-old FSU student and the son of a local sheriff's deputy, was taken into custody and brought to a local hospital after he was shot by police on campus. Police say the 2 victims killed in the shooting were not students. The shooting took place around noon Eastern at the Student Union on campus. Earlier, I spoke with Ben Vatesman, an FSU student, who ran into the teacher's lounge to seek cover when the shooting took place.
I just hope that everyone is safe, and I'm so sorry for those who are lost. Like, there's literally families right now who sent their kids to college, and this is what's happening with their money that they paid for this kid, or even students are paying out of pocket. Like, there's so many scenarios where people lost a loved one today, and I'm just on the news interviewing. It's like that could have been me, that could have been anyone.
At the White House Thursday, President Trump hosted Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and he spoke about the shooting during their joint meeting in the Oval Office.
Fully briefed as to where we are right now. It's a shame. It's a horrible thing, horrible that things like this take place, and we'll have more to say about it later.
Anna Schechter joins us now. She's the senior coordinating producer for the Crime and Public Safety Unit here at CBS News. What are you learning about the victims and what happened?
Well, we know 6 people were injured, 5 of them from gunshot wounds from the suspect. 2 deceased, as you noted, they were not students. We don't know if the 6 injured, if they were all students or a mix of student and faculty or staff, or just passersby who were walking across the campus. That's also a possibility. Of course, the suspect also taken to a local hospital. One thing to note, he did invoke his Fifth Amendment right and declined to answer questions from investigators from that hospital bed.
What else do we know about the alleged gunman, known to law enforcement, but not in the typical way we say known to law enforcement?
This is such an unusual case. He essentially grew up in the law enforcement community in Tallahassee. His mother worked at the sheriff's office, the Leon County Sheriff's Office, for 18 years. As a high school student, he was an active member. He was even an officer in the Leon County Youth Advisory Board. So he would go through training. That's an advisory board that kind of connects students and law enforcement. They learn about gun safety. They learn about safe storage. So he had a lot of information. And police told us at the press conference and within the last hour that he used a handgun that had belonged to his mother, was her service gun that she then purchased for her own use once she got a replacement. They believe he used that handgun to carry out all of the shootings, and all of the victims were actually hit by, or 5 of the 6 injured were hit by bullets from that handgun. He also had a long gun on his person when they apprehended him. Police don't believe he fired any shots from that gun, but that is still under investigation. We are at the very early stages.
What happens next?
Well, there are hundreds of eyewitnesses to interview and probably hundreds of minutes of surveillance footage from this, 10-minute period when people first learned that he had a gun and he opened fire. So different angles of cameras. They're going to be reviewing audio, doing an audio assessment. How many shots did he fire? They're going to be casing the area, looking for shell casings also, because all of this is going to go into an investigative file that then goes to a prosecutor that goes into their case when they charge him. Right now, he is a suspect. The legal process has to play out, and the investigators, the police on the ground, local, state, the state and federal agencies are supporting the Tallahassee Police Department, who are the leads. All of that information they're gathering goes into a case that they are building against this 20-year-old young man who probably some of them knew personally.
Anna Schechter, thank you. CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman joins us now. Willie, what more is the White House saying?
Hey there, good to be with you, Lindsay. Well, President Trump, I should say, called this situation a shame, and he was asked about it a little while ago when he was signing 2 executive orders. He essentially was asked about if he would support any changing of gun laws. And he said, and I'm quoting him here, he essentially said, these things are terrible, but the gun doesn't do the shooting, the people do. And he went on to say that he is a supporter of the Second Amendment, and also that's part of the reason why he got elected. He said it had an obligation to protect the Second Amendment. Of course, we know that the president has been briefed, and the White House continues to monitor this situation. And the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, she said the FBI is assisting local authorities on the scene.
President Trump hosted Italy's prime minister at the White House Thursday. We know trade was a big part of the meeting. What can you tell us?
Yeah, that's right. Trade, a huge focus, essentially because of those tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs that the president has announced against other nations, including the European Union at 20%. We do, of course, know that those aluminum and steel tariffs and auto tariffs, which are set at 25%, impact the Europeans as well. We saw the Prime Minister of Italy. She's the first European leader to visit here at the White House with the president after that reciprocal tariff announcement took place. Now, White House officials essentially say that this meeting has been on the books for quite some time, not saying necessarily that the tariffs were part of the reason why the Prime Minister decided to visit the White House here. But a key focus is coming up with a solution that won't necessarily happen in one day. And remember, the Prime Minister, she represents only Italy. She doesn't represent the entire EU bloc. But it's important to note that these two world leaders have a close relationship. They are politically aligned, closely politically aligned. So the Prime Minister perhaps speaks Trump's language. I want to point out one thing she said earlier today. She said that she wants to make the West great again. That sounds very familiar, of course, right? Make America great again. That is the president's campaign slogan. So the Prime Minister of Italy speaking Trump's language, putting out an olive branch, so to speak, and in fact, an invitation to visit Italy. That's perhaps where some more conversations could potentially take place in terms of these trade negotiations and ongoing split between the Europeans and the Americans, if that trip were to indeed happen, Lindsay.
The president was asked about his recent criticisms of Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Let's listen.
I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
So this is akin to what he said on True Social. We do need to remind people Powell's term ends in 2026. The president cannot remove him. He has said if he is asked to step down, he would not do so. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, and there's not necessarily any legal mechanism that the White House or the president can use to remove him. It's unclear how the White House would go about doing this, but this came about after Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, mentioned the potential negative effect that the president's tariff policies could have on the U.S. economy, increased inflation, economic slowdown. And the president did not like that. He lashed out on True Social. He blasted the Fed chairman, and you saw his words there as you just played and from the Oval Office earlier today. But clearly, this is something that the president has mentioned before. In his first term, he wanted to oust Powell for then raising interest rates. In this case, he wants Powell to lower interest rates, noting how the European Central Bank has moved to lower rates. And in terms of him acting too slow or too late, he essentially wants the Federal Reserve to lower those interest rates. In his mind, that would lead to a more positive outcome for the U.S. economy amid all of the changes that are happening with his tariff policy. But still, Lindsay, this is certainly something that would be unprecedented and certainly something that could potentially be challenged in the courts if the White House or the president were to make this move. And it's also something that could send a lot of economic volatility in the markets and with the U.S. economy as a whole to make this type of move to remove the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Lindsay.
I have to be quick with you on this, but what can you tell us about the IRS considering whether to rescind Harvard University's tax-exempt status?
Yeah, this is something that the president floated in response to Harvard doubling down and saying that it essentially won't cave to demands to eliminate DEI policies and to point out specific students who have perhaps violated conduct policies and protest Palestinian support of Palestinian efforts on Harvard's campus. Another move from the Trump administration, but a counter move, or so to speak, from Harvard itself, saying that it won't back down. On top of that, Lindsay, the White House is looking to potentially remove Harvard's ability to get those students from overseas if they don't get the information they've asked for.
Willie James Inman, thank you.